everybody. Welcome to United Glazing Show. Hello, Rich. How are you doing?
Hi, everybody. How are you today? Doing very good, Alana.
Oh, okay. That sounds great. Are you ready?
Yep, we're going to talk about Windows today.
Yeah, that's my favorite topic because it's like insight from our lives. Like we see all the windows all around our life, like in the houses, in the cars, in our offices. So I really
Sure.
wonder about it because
Yes.
from now on, I want to look like this. Oh, I know this window type. This is called this.
Yes. And obviously, as you mentioned, there are several different types of windows that are out there. And again, each window would have a different function or a different purpose, depending on what the architect had designed the window for.
Oh, that sounds great. So from now on, I'm going to learn all the window types. Okay, so if you're ready, I want to ask my question.
Yep. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, what are the most common types of windows?
So for different buildings, there are different applications. So that's going to be a really double-edged sword question there for me. I'm going to say in the United States, growing up, all of our schools had what are called double hung windows. And I'm not sure if you have the same type of windows with the rest of our audience, but a double hung window is a double moving window. There's two parts of the window, a top half and a bottom half. The top half can
open
slide
it
down,
like this, right?
and the lower half can go up. So that's called a double hung window. That allows you to access fresh air coming into your schoolroom or your apartment or your house by lowering the upper half. If there's any type of breeze, it's not going to direct and hit you in the face. If you lower the lower half, if you're sitting down at your desk, you might get a cool breeze right in your face. And sometimes you might just want to have some fresh air coming in. So you might want to open the upper half. So to me, in a school application or a residential house, the most common window would be a double hung window. Now, definitely in the United States, and I'm sure several other locations as well, there's a fire department code that you have to have a certain size window opening. So that way, God forbid, there's a fire and somebody needs to egress out of the building. When you open up that window, there's enough room that somebody can escape out of the building and out to safety. So there are certain requirements for sizes in schools for windows, and houses have a smaller requirement because you don't have as big of an area in a house as you would a school. Yeah. So in an office building, you're going to have a different type of window. You're not going to have a double hung window, although there are some double hung windows in office buildings. The most common you're going to see is what's called a casement window. Casement windows would be like a door. They're hinged on either the right side or the left side. They can have a handle that you could turn and crank and it'll mechanically open up, or you could just release a lock and it'll just slide open. Yes. Yeah. Now, a casement window can open either in toward the building or out away from the face of the building, out into the clear area outside of the building. There are pros and cons to both types of windows, but to me, that's the most common you would see in a business office or a high-rise building, would be a casement window.
Yeah, like I remember double hung window from my school PS255. We used to open it like this. But at my house, we used to have fixed window?
Casement window, and it opens like a door. Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay. So which window type do we use in the skyscraper? Because I really wonder about it. My favorite building is the Empire State Building. So what do we use?
See, now you got me on a good one, that one, because actually I'm fairly familiar with the Empire State Building. You have a variety of both double hung and casement windows on that building because it's an older building. So when they did the historical renovation of that building about 15 years ago, they replaced it with the same type of window because it had historical landmark status. So there are a lot of double hung windows in that building. They did convert some of those to casement windows, which is more common, and in the high-rise application, a little bit safer, I guess I want to say, is the proper way to term that. A casement windows you would want on a high-rise building that's going to be anything above probably 10 stories tall to open inward. If you had an outward open casement window, you can get a gust of wind, especially in a city like Manhattan or Chicago or LA, where you have what you want to call wind tunnels. You can get wind going down between buildings and it picks up speed between the windows. If you have an outward swinging window, the outward swung window could be caught in a wind drift and shear off its hinges or overextend its hinges.
Oh,
But
that sounds bad.
Yeah, that's very bad. You would never want to have something like that happen. So most of the windows in a large city like that would open inward into the building. So that way you would never have that possibility of the wind catching and pulling the operable part of the window out of its frame. Additionally, you have, at least in these larger cities, you'll have requirements that the window itself, even though what you and I are thinking of, you can open a casement window and it could open almost the whole way open, and you can open 90 degrees, to the frame itself. In these larger cities, there are limit devices that you have to put on these windows that only allow them to open 4 inches. You say, hey, 4 inches is nothing.
Yeah, it's really small.
Well, it's enough to let air get into the building so you can get a fresh air exchange inside your apartment, your office, or whatever room you're in. But conversely, there have been in the past, unfortunately, several incidents where a child gets too close to a window. If that window is open, there's always the possibility of bad things happening with somebody possibly falling out of a window. Yeah. So you will see it's a requirement specifically in New York City that you can't open a window more than 4 inches. And there are specific limit locks that you have to put on the window that meet a specific code that it has to withstand 400 pounds or whatever each specific locality requires, a specific poundage that it can't open more than that size with applying that amount of pressure onto the window. Yeah. So it's that will be it's a requirement, and I know that's in several cities as well. Also, I'm sure that's something that's in Europe as well as the United States.
Yeah. So what I learned from this is a limit is a thing that is so important for the safety.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, it's only there for safety, and it's regulated. And there's testing companies that will ensure that these parts and pieces that are added to a window are strong enough to withstand these loads. So it's something that's very important when an architect is designing a building as to figure out what he wants to do. We also have, there are several other types of windows which we haven't touched on yet. We also have fixed windows, which would just be for you and me talking, would be what we would call a picture window. You just have a big piece of glass.
You called fixed window picture window.
Picture window, yes, because basically you're going to see a frame around it.
Okay.
And then just a large piece of glass. So you basically just look outside of it. And
so that sounds great.
If you have this beautiful view, look at the Empire State Building or Central Park in Manhattan.
It's
like a picture.
So that is so good. I will never forget about it.
Okay, so one of the things that we're seeing, at least in the New York City market, is architects are going to larger and larger glass. They're trying to get floor to ceiling glass, which is a problem unto itself when you try to make glass that big and that strong to withstand wind loads. But the intent is just to make the glass as big as possible so you could take in the biggest possible view that you have.
Yeah, it is so nice. That's the point that I look at.
So sliding windows, you would see more in a residential house, and a sliding window would move left to right or right to left. You could have a single sliding window where only one side moves, or you could have a double sliding window where they could both move toward each other.
Oh, I know that window type. My grandparents have it. They open it like this, sliding to the right and sliding to the left. Okay,
correct. Yes. Now they also have what's called folding windows. Think of if you go into your favorite cafe or ice cream parlor, and they have a counter. The counter might be 8 foot wide. who's going to do one big 8-foot wide window? You're going to have a window that's made up of multiple parts, and it's going to almost be accordion style.
Yeah, it's like
where
a
one folds into
curtain.
the next,
So
and all will push to one side. So when they open up, you have this big 8-foot counter, so they can serve multiple guests at the same time. But at the end of the day, you could close it because it unfolds and makes the large closure again, so that way you're protecting your business at night. So
yeah, we see them so
yeah, so
much.
yeah, I mean, again, you could basically make a window, for variety of applications depending on what you're looking to do. And again, there's, if you could think of it, an architect can design it, and then I'm sure the manufacturer can build it for what you're trying to do. But again, each window would have a specific purpose. Like I say, you're not going to put a folding window in a high-rise building because it just, it's not the right application, So
Yeah, I couldn't
yeah,
imagine it from a skyscraper. You have a folding window in there. It
that would
doesn't
be
make any
interesting. Yes.
sense.
And
Okay.
then I
Oh,
was going
go
to
on,
say,
please.
okay, what you can also do, what I've seen architects do, is they actually will marry type of window A against type window B. So if you're in your apartment on, overlooking Central Park, you want to have your large fixed picture window, so you're looking over there. But hey, I also want to get some fresh air in here. So he'll have maybe a 5-foot or 6-foot wide, full height, tall picture window, but next to it is a casement window. So that way you can get some fresh air if you're sitting in your living room or your bedroom looking at the view.
Oh, that sounds great. So when you use the two types, you can have fresh air and you can just see the view really good.
Correct.
Oh,
And now,
I didn't know it.
Okay, and now it gets even better. So now, normally what we see a lot of in Manhattan, when you have the fixed window in the center, a casement that will open up one way on one side, and a casement that opens the opposite way on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
The benefits to that is when you remove the limit locks and then you can open the casement window the full way, you can get out. If you're on the 60th floor of a building, how do you clean that fixed window out there if dirt and
That's impossible.
from each side?
Yeah, that's
Did I lose you there?
impossible. You cannot clean it like that.
So,
You have to do something.
yes. So that's a way of at least allowing a homeowner to be able to clean their windows, or the building maintenance, can do that as well also.
Otherwise, you're not gonna watch a picture of the Central Park. You're gonna watch
Correct,
the dirty.
yes.
So, okay, I wonder, where do we use PVC, aluminum, and steel window?
Okay, so PVC is going to be used in a residential application. It's going to be the least strongest or least secure of the three materials that you just spoke about. At least here in the New York City area, in the residential area, for maybe 6 floors and lower, you can get away with PVC. Now, PVC will come in different thicknesses. So you can get a higher end, thicker PVC that has a rating to it. But for your typical residential house, you can go to your home supply store and pick up a replacement window if you have a cracked window or want to replace a window. Very basic, straightforward. They're going to have the least amount of choices. You'll probably have a double hung. You might have a casement. You might have a fixed window. Those are probably the only 3 main choices that you would be able to choose from to buy some from your local home center to change in your house. Again, low level performance. It's good enough for a low story building. Typically on an office building or a apartment building that's going to be 6 floors and going higher, it's going to be an aluminum window. Aluminum windows are the best of both worlds. It's stronger than your PVC. It's not as strong as steel. It's lighter weight. So when you're making these windows, your weight is a consideration when an architect's designing a building. When you got a 60-story building, you're putting all these windows on top of each other. There's a lot of weight that you're hanging on this building. Aluminum is probably a third of the weight of what steel is. So in doing so, you're able to design different sizes. The aluminum also will have extrusions that will beef it up, so it won't just be a flat piece of aluminum. There'll be a T section or an H section, which gives it rigidity. So aluminum will still have characteristics of being very strong, being made into different shapes. Additionally, aluminum, you can put a thermal break between the exterior of the window and the interior of the window. A thermal break will be very beneficial to people who live in a colder climate, where the outside temperature might be in the freezing range of 0 degrees Celsius, but meanwhile you want to be comfortable inside at whatever temperature you like inside your building. If you did not have a thermal break between the exterior of the frame and the interior frame, the cold would just penetrate through the aluminum material from outside to inside, and condensation and frost would form on the inside face of your building because of the different temperatures. A thermal break is a plastic, wow, we're getting technical now. It's just going to be a split in the aluminum that's designed by an engineer that will stop the cold at this, because it's a different material. So once it doesn't have a continuous path through aluminum from outside to inside, it has to pass through this material, which we call the thermal break, which is a plastic type of material that will stop the cold from transferring to the inside. Aluminum windows, you're able to do that with. You cannot do that in the steel window. Aluminum windows are most common. Aluminum is a fairly cheap material for manufacturers worldwide to purchase and to heat up into a mold and to create these shapes and profiles for the frames of the windows. And the aluminum is very resistant to atmospheric conditions. It's not going to rust. It's a non-ferrous material, so it won't rust. Aluminum is very easily painted with these high performance paints. So you could basically get aluminum painted in any color you want, as well as what's called anodizing, where it's a chemical reaction where you can dip the aluminum into a tank and turn it brown, bronze, black, gold.
So you can make any color you want.
Anodizing is going to be more in like an earth tone type shade, but the paint, you can get any color. You want a yellow window, you can have a yellow one. You want a red window, you can have a red window. And I've seen some
my favorite is blue.
Interesting color windows. So steel windows you're going to use for strength and security. In my experience in the glazing world, I've used steel windows in prisons. I've used them in police precincts.
Hospitals?
I've used them in hospitals, not as much, because again, they're looking for the performance to try to regulate the temperature with the aluminum, and also with the hospital, they're going to try to cheer it up and have different colors. Again, steel you could paint, but because steel is a stronger, thicker material, you can't put a thermal break in the steel. It's not conducive to putting a thermal break in. But it's more for heavy duty application where you want more strength and security. From what I understand, like secure buildings, like banks might have them, so I guess where you want to, it's not as commonly used in the New York area, although I do see applications for them. They're a lot fewer and far between applications for steel windows. Aluminum would be the most common in the commercial industry for what we would say.
So we say aluminum forever.
Yes. The aluminum manufacturer would like you for that.
So can I ask you another question?
Sure, of course.
Is Skylight a window type?
Okay, so skylights are going to be a specialized type of window because obviously it has the same characteristics as a window. You're going to want to be able to visually see out of a skylight, which will bring some light into the top floor of an apartment or an attic area or a area of your house where you install it into. The difference with a skylight is that it's either going to be on a flat surface with glass on top and you're looking through it, or it might be, if you have a pitched roof, it would be on a slope. So in, again, colder or wet climates, you could have standing water, snow, sleet, or ice sitting on top of it.
Oh.
So these skylights will have a little bit more secure type of glazing application, where it's going to be sealed. It's going to be double sealed to make sure we don't have any water penetration coming in, because that's the last thing you're going to want to have if you have it in your house with a wood roof, a wood framed roof with shingles on top of it. You know, because you get water onto the wood, you don't want the wood to rot.
Yeah, you're right.
Building, you know, a little bit different, but still, nobody ever wants to have water penetrating into the exposed or living areas. So you'll have a little bit more secure glazing type and sealants that will secure the glass into the frame, as well as, because it's glass. Now, if something blew up there or fell over and broke the glass, you have to have special glass inside of the skylight. It's required, at least in the New York City area, to have laminated glass inside of a skylight. The reason for this is, picture your windshield of your car. Unfortunately, I'm sure we've all seen either on a movie or somewhere where if something hits the windshield, it breaks and it shatters, but all the glass stays together.
Oh, that sounds good.
Normal glass in a window, you break it, you get shards of glass that could fall down.
Yeah.
Picture glass over your head. If it breaks, you don't want that raining down on top of you. So a requirement of skylight glass is that it's the same type of glass that's in your like windshield, called laminated glass. So if it does break, it's going to stay together. It'll be broken, but it will stay together. It's not going to fall down and leave a hole above you with glass falling down on top of you.
Oh yeah. So what I understand is, like, skylight is not so usable.
I want to say it's going to be a specialized application. What we're seeing in New York right now are what are called walkable skylights. A lot of times when you have a metro or a subway station, they're underground. How do you bring natural light down into a tunnel below the ground? What they're designing by us are what are called walkable skylights, because up above on street level, people are going about their everyday business. You might have a plaza where you have picnic tables or, planters, just for a nice area in a courtyard of a building. But you need to bring light down to this area below. So they'll make skylights, which are called walkable skylights. It's going to be a very specialized skylight where it has, it'll be on obscure glass, so that way you don't get a clear view from up above to down below, but you'll be getting the light coming through. On the top layer of the glass, it will have a frit or a grit on it. So if somebody's walking on it, if you walk on glass, we all know glass is slick, slippery. You add a little bit of water to it, somebody walks on top of it, they're going to fall and slide. So they add a grip to the glass, so that way as you're walking on it, you have grip and you're not going to slide or slip on the glass.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, and also now, because you're walking on the glass, a person like you or me say, why would you want to walk on glass? You're going to fall through the glass.
Yeah.
This glass is very thick. This is made up, it's going to be, again, a laminated glass. But what might, like, if you think of what's in your windshield of your car, that might be maybe 8 to 10 millimeters thick. This glass that is what we call walkable will probably have 4 or 5 layers of 6 to 8 millimeter glass, all laminated together to make one very thick piece of glass, which is able to withstand the foot traffic of pedestrians walking on top of it above.
So that's the safety
So
way.
it's creating a what your aesthetic design of what you're trying to do, of allowing some light into a lower area where you're trying to get some natural light in. It's giving you privacy. So if somebody's walking across it, you're not looking up and seeing somebody walk across it, but it's letting some light, some overall light in. And also it's strong enough to let people walk on it. And it has the special grit on top of it. So that way it allows people to walk on it if there's any rain or water, and they're not going to slip or slide. So that's going to be a heavy duty skylight made for commercial applications. But for most people that are probably listening right now, they're probably thinking of, a house skylight, which is going to be a lot simpler of a design, but just trying to let you see how, you took a simple design and it was expanded by these designers and architects to, incorporate it into like the overall vision when they create buildings and courtyards and the whole big thing here.
You know what? I just imagined all of the things that you said. So I'm just so quiet about it because I'm just imagining it. Wow. So I'm so impressed about window types.
Yeah, I've done about 5 or 6 of these walkable skylights within the past 5 years. And I'm going to say earlier in my career, I've heard of them. I hadn't really seen many of them. But, it seems like, architects are getting more daring, I guess I want to say this is the right word, and just, again, encompassing more items into an overall a design aesthetic for what they're trying to create. So
yeah.
it's nice. It's interesting to see different things come about.
Yeah, but like, aesthetic is so important for people like us. But it's like, it has to be usable and it has to be safe also.
Have the function for it, yes. Yeah. And it has to be able to adapt to the different situations, because every time you create something, okay, what are the pros, what are the cons, and how can we blend the two together and make it usable for the public? Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you very much, Rich. I learned a lot of things from you today. So I hope people learned a lot of things from you today also.
Great.
Thank you very much.
I think I can't wait till next time. I think we'll speak about glass next week, if that's okay with you guys.
Oh, really? We're going to speak about glass types.
Yes, we have several. We'll talk about the different types of glass. We talked about the laminated glass tonight. We can get into all the different types of glass that are out there and the differences and the uses for each type of glass.
Wow. Okay. So I have to work to this.
Okay, great. Alana, it's been a pleasure this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Rach. Thank you for your time too. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.